bycatch, the single species harvesters, who are only going after one species and throw off the rest. 2/3 of all the fish that are caught are actually thrown back, usually dead or in very damaged. Really inefficient way to go, but it's more efficient for those single species harvesters to do it than in another way. Overfishing, the hard-working artisanal and industrial fishing fleets on the one hand, trying to get as much as they can in the shortest period of time, versus the fish themselves and future generations of fish lovers. I'm actually in conversation with the Japanese Ministry of the Environment about starting a Sailors for the Sea chapter in Tokyo. And as most of you know, the Japanese are incredibly sensitive about having anyone, especially maybe Americans, tell them what they should and shouldn't do. Not that I'm going to do that, but we think that an organization like Sailors for the Sea has enough neutrality so that we actually may be allowed into Tokyo and to discuss with them how we can jointly manage fisheries worldwide. There's so many other issues. I'm not going to go through all of them. Dredging, bottom trawling, noise, ultrasonic and other extreme noise in the ocean. The Navy, on the one hand, wants to do testing, sending signals underneath the ocean, important for its defense reasons, and on the other hand, we believe that those noises disorient the whales and other mammals sometimes. It is said driving them onto the beaches in great numbers and causing disruptions in the long-range conversations of whales. So mining and drilling and all of that. One just an amazing fact is that the Law of the Seas Treaty has not been signed by the U.S. It's been signed by either 130 or 150 other nations, I can't remember, but virtually all of the important nations of the world. And we have not signed it. And we have not signed it because the opponents in our nation, the political opponents of world government and treaties in general, have kept us from signing it. And versus the protectors of the economic zone rights and other rights, and the military is in favor of our signing it. So let me just talk quickly about the implications of all of this. I'm going to get back to my screen. Let's see if that's still working. So the question you might be asking is, what can be done and what can an individual do? And whether or not you're a sailor, you can of course join our organization, Sailors for the Sea, and learn from our website. We connect you to information about ocean health and names of all the significant big players, which we don't consider ourselves in the field. But as to other ways to improve ocean health, they really are very personal and very public. Just give a few examples. Reducing or stopping the use of so much plastic. My wife Susan, I'm sorry she couldn't be here tonight, she carries around, for example, an aluminum straw. And every time that she's offered a straw at a restaurant, or if she's getting an iced latte at Starbucks, she pulls out her straw and says, "No, thank you. You shouldn't be offering single-use plastic." And it's actually, you know, I was sort of brought up that you don't talk that way to people you've never met. But you know what? It's changing my attitude toward these matters, and it's a very simple thing. Just carry around a little aluminum straw. So there's some simple things that we can do. Plastic, after all, ends up in landfills too often in the ocean, where too often it's ingested by fish when it breaks down into its pellet form or can strangle sea mammals. A second one is, of course, be more aware of the fish that you eat. And Marilyn didn't tell me what we're eating tonight, so I may be really getting in trouble here.
No, it's not fish. But it's cow.
It's cow. Well, I'm not talking about cows. You know, prefer wild-caught fish, but be sure not to eat the last survivor of that particular species. And I have a guide on me that, let's see, this is an Oceania guide, and there's another one which is the Blue Ocean Institute. If you want to look at them, I'll pass them around, and they're very helpful. If you're wondering whether the fish you're about to order is appropriate to eat. If you eat farm fish, prefer the herbivores, the tilapia and the catfish, as they don't require being fed ocean protein. Farm salmon, for example, requires 3 to 5 times their weight in fish meal, often anchovies and other ocean protein, to bring them to your table. So every time you eat a salmon, and I love salmon, you're eating 3 to 5 times as much by weight of the ocean protein. Also, be sure to avoid fish with high mercury content. John Grave can probably give you some good thoughts about what to avoid. Tuna, I understand, is probably the most visible, but not the only large fish that gathers mercury. The founder of IMAX actually became very addled, and he was luckily able to notice. It's hard when you're getting addled to notice that you're getting addled sometimes. But he did, luckily, and has started a great campaign against preventing the flow of mercury into the ocean systems. Reduce your carbon footprint would be a third, more complex thing that you can do, and contribute less CO2 to the atmosphere for the reasons I talked about. If you want to be more ambitious and talk to your senators about ratification of the law of the seas, that's incredibly important. There is a fact, I wonder how many of you know this. Where am I seeing this? So, if you think about the land, the U.S. land, and you think about U.S. waters, do you know what the relationship by area is between those two? Does anybody happen to know that? Chris, you can't answer. So the U.S. oversees 25% more ocean than it does land because of the 200-mile exclusive economic zone. And we have a very big coast. Alaska adds a lot to it, so does Hawaii, and so do a lot of the little islands and atolls in the Pacific. So ratification of that law is very important to us.
Could you tell us what some of the heart of what those provisions are?
Of the law of the sea, do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, fundamentally, it is a treaty that all nations who are signatory to it abide by, and it talks about rights of passage. If you look at the English Channel as my favorite example, or maybe the Straits of Malacca, you don't have 200 miles between the land masses, and so those nations that abut important channels like that have agreed on rights of passage during through particularly a swatch down the middle of those channels. And what about wartime? Very important things. The U.S. has been sort of having exercises in, I think, the South China Sea. China's very mad about this. We're not a signatory to the treaty, so it creates a very dicey situation. Who can get to go through the Northwest Passage when it's ice-free, which is estimated to be in maybe 20 years? It shortens the route between Rotterdam and Japan by, I think, 4,000 miles. So you're going to see a lot of traffic through there. Well, who cleans it up if a tanker bursts on an unexpected load place up there? And who has the right to mine and to dig for deep sea oil. All of those kinds of things. And we have problems of the commons that are addressed by that treaty. So,
So can I just ask another clarifying question?
Yeah, of course.
If you don't mind? So, because I may be mistaken about this, but so the United States claims 200 miles off of our shores, but we don't really want to recognize 200 miles off of somebody else's shores?
de facto,
Is that
we
sort of what
do
it comes down
recognize
to?
it, but we are not bound by the treaty that created those circumstances. Yeah. So, in fact, we behave in most ways as though we've signed it, except where the mining interests and so forth
Where
have
it's
persuaded.
inconvenient. Where it's inconvenient.
Where it's inconvenient, thank you. Yeah. So, in any case, just coming to the end here, the surface of our planet, 70% ocean, 30% land. Of all of the conservation dollars that go toward the protection of our precious resources in the world, less than 1% goes to oceans, and over 99% goes to land interests. I'd even think that maybe 50-50 would be okay, but this is, I think, a very stunning ratio that Sailors for the Sea is trying to address, trying to get more dollars to come to support of oceans. And now that the space shuttle program is winding down, I guess in its last couple of iterations, wouldn't it be wonderful if we spent those federal dollars on ocean exploration and found out just how deep is the ocean, who lives there, and in what condition? So I'm hoping that in our lifetimes, all of that will happen. And I think we're going to get a chance, maybe during dinner, if you want to talk either privately or to respond to questions. But thanks so much. This is a great evening, and I'm so grateful to the Public Conversations Project for doing what you do and for giving platforms for sensitive, important issues to be discussed. So thanks.